I think derangement, the term derangement, is usually something levied at people when they don't have a cogent argument to counter the arguments I'm making. I would call myself someone who's been infected with democracy addiction syndrome and is allergic to the type of depravity that these individuals are demonstrated.
In this video, Piers Morgan has Scott Galloway and Kevin O'Leary on to debate Trump and Musk. And I've done 2 videos on this. This one focuses a little bit more on tariffs and dirty dealings and questionable salute gestures. Why don't we watch it together? I'll have some thoughts, and then I want to know what you think in the comments section.
You know, you referenced there that he did a Nazi salute. And I don't think you actually think he did a Nazi salute for a moment. I mean, I'll ask you, but I don't think you do. And the other day, Cory Booker did exactly the same thing on stage. Literally almost exactly the same thing. And all the people who had leapt on Elon Musk and said, he's a Nazi, did a Nazi salute, blah, 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 they all said the complete opposite about Cory Booker, simply because he was a Democrat. He was one of their tribe. Therefore, when he did almost exactly the same arm movement on a stage, he was not a Nazi. And I think that's where I would agree with Kevin, that sometimes it's the double standard which lends succor to the concept of derangement syndrome. Do you accept that?
I think derangement, the term derangement, is usually something levied at people when they don't have a cogent argument to counter the arguments I'm making. I would call myself someone who's been infected with democracy addiction syndrome and is allergic to the type of depravity that these individuals are demonstrated. I generally haven't seen Senator Booker's gesture. I think Steve Bannon and Elon Musk both gave Nazi salutes. I've watched the tape a bunch of times. This is an individual who's decided there's a white genocide against Africana farmers. I think he knew what he was doing. It might have been a tick. But he seems to be very disciplined about not making remarks or comments with respect to China. Whenever there's money on the line in a society where he may not have the same rights of free speech, he seems very disciplined. So, yeah, we have a fundamental disagreement. I do believe it was a Nazi salute or a Nazi gesture. I don't see other Republicans accidentally making hand gestures that remind them of the Third Reich.
But Cory Booker did. I mean, you should see it after this. Honestly, you would be amazed how similar the arm movement was and the difference in the way it was treated by.
Well, then it was wrong. I want to give you and Kevin this. If Senator Booker did this, he should be dressed down and say, you should never accidentally, errantly make a gesture that reminds people of the type of death and destruction that we incurred around an ideology that this symbol came to respect.
So I think Scott Galloway puts his finger on it right there, and he hasn't even seen the clip. When I watch the clip of Cory Booker doing it, I don't feel anything ideologically that resembles, yes, he's raising his arm above shoulder height, to be sure. Can you say in a vacuum that's a similar gesture? Sure it is. It's intent to me. When I watch Elon Musk hawk that Sig Heil, that he hucks it out in a crisp. And Steve Bannon isn't crisp when you watch his eyes. What's going on in those eyes? What ideology does that feel like to you? What ideology do both of those men espouse? I think you have to think a little bit about intent. So if I stand here and raise my arm and a gesture, hey man, how's it going? I don't think casual passersby scream, oh my God, that guy's doing a Nazi salute. But when I slap my hand to my breast and then thrust it out, and then slap it to my breast and thrust it out, right? I mean, it's you be the judge, man. Maybe I'm crazy.
And it just so happens that 2 guys who have a history of very conservative politics at a very conservative gathering accidentally made this gesture. They should know better. I don't know a lot of people accidentally making gestures that look like Nazi gestures at parent-teachers meetings. Both Senator Booker, I'll take you at your word, and Steve Bannon and Elon Musk should know better. And it gets in the way of, Kevin, what you were saying, his ability to demonstrate greatness. And I'll be honest, like Neuralink, I think what he's doing in Neuralink could have huge benefit. But the problem is we've decided in our society, well, is it a net good for society? If you could press a button, would you want him to go away? I wouldn't press a button. I think he's inspired the EV race. He may get us to Mars sooner than anybody else. He's created tremendous shareholder value and economic value. I wouldn't press that button. But the problem is with the word net. And that is, just because someone can put a rocket into space and create tremendous economic value doesn't mean they shouldn't be held accountable for or acquitted for personal behavior that sets a terrible role model for young men or recklessly damages the well-being of kids in other nations and reduces our soft power. The reason why our small businesses, and like Kevin, I invest and run small business. I sold my last business for $160 million. A third of my clients were overseas. And one of the reasons I was able to do business with Samsung, LVMH, and Toyota was there was a great deal of respect, affection, and goodwill for Americans. I believe that when Americans walk into a corporate office, a small or medium-sized business, they are more likely to do business with us from a company offering the exact same thing from Turkey or from South Africa. And the reason why is despite the fact that we're perceived as obnoxious, aggressive, that we were the good guys, that people always felt good about America. And one of the best ROIs we have made in soft power was that $75 billion in US aid. And to cut it off this recklessly and this cruelly, you know who's filling the void? China. And for the first time in history, surveys show that people around the world see China as a greater force of good than America. And to believe that doesn't hurt us, whether it's economically or working with our security apparatus to let us know when there's terrorist cells gestating or forming, to believe that it's not going to change the depth of the pools of capital that people want to invest in America. Generally speaking, I mean, Piers, you're British, and tell me if you agree with this. We have our issues. We make a lot of mistakes. But at the end of the day, Americans are seen as the good guys. And I worry that in the last 120 days, we've lost a lot of that.
Well, I think you've gone back. Well, listen, I completely concur. I love America. I love Americans. I think, like my country, you're a great country with flaws, and people know what those are. I think that Trump's style of leadership is chaotic by nature. I think probably quite often deliberately so. I mean, you said a very interesting thing recently on your podcast, your excellent podcast, The Pivot with Kara Swisher. You said that you'd gone from thinking Trump was incompetent on economics to saying, and this is your quote, "I believe he's purposefully creating massive market volatility such that him and his insiders can make billions of dollars in market manipulation and insider trading." And that on his meme coin offer, you said this is arguably the biggest grift in modern history. I mean, it's a pretty striking thing to level at Trump, that he's creating all this global chaos purely for personal gain. Given that when I've interviewed him over the last 20 years, I can't think of a single interview where he's not mentioned A, the way that China in his eyes has been ripping off America, and B, that tariffs are not a very effective weapon to restore America's economic power. So it's not like this is the first time he's talked about this stuff, but you genuinely believe it's all just a way to make himself personally richer?
Well, okay, so I'll acknowledge I suffer from Musk derangement syndrome. I also suffer from basic pattern recognition. He has taken tariffs up or down 50 times. 50 times, taking markets way up, way down. And the net effect, as far as I can tell, is one deal with the UK where we're getting some aerospace technology and Aston Martin engines for 10% tariff versus 15%. There has not been a single deal of any material value struck here. And then the morning that he announces huge tariffs that take the markets into one of their biggest one-day declines, his top cop, the Attorney General, sells her Donald Trump media stock. Zero-day options volume has been the days he takes a tariff up or down. Basically, insider trading laws are no longer in effect. When he can open a Swiss banking account in the form of a meme coin the Friday before his inauguration, and people can put money in or take money out, and nobody knows, and just 10 wallets made billions, while 70 or 80,000 lost billions in the subsequent weeks, we have a level of grift, insider trading, or what used to be considered insider trading, and market manipulation, the likes of which we haven't seen.
I think when Piers Morgan and Kevin O'Leary say that Scott Galloway has Trump derangement syndrome, I think it's really more that Piers Morgan and Kevin O'Leary have derangement. If it looks like a duck and it walks like a duck and it quacks like a duck and it has a bill like a duck and it lays duck eggs and you take a DNA sample and it is duck DNA, I mean, come on. The guy is a convicted felon. Of course, they act as this is all like, oh, now surely you're being a bit. We're 10 years into this. Yeah, it's corruption.
So wouldn't he be stupid for him and his cronies? Autocracy is based on the following. You punish your enemies, you threaten lawsuits against them, you announce tariffs against them, and you make your allies billionaires. It seems like there's additional options trading and market participation right before he announces these tariffs going up or down. Because the net effect for America so far has just been a damage in our reputation. They had to send out a letter the other day telling nations to come to the table. This guy is literally the worst poker player in the world. He announces a 145% tariff against China, and before they even respond, he reduces it to 30%. It's like showing up to a poker table, going all in with bluster, and then before anyone can respond, saying, I fold. The whole world is saying to America and the Trump administration regarding his sclerotic, reckless, and quite frankly, stupid tariffs, the same way Logan Roy responded to his children in succession. You are not a serious people. All this has done is reduced our reputation and created incentive for other nations to reroute their supply chains around us. And there are discussions, but they're not happening between America. They're happening between Japan, South Korea, and China, who for the first time in decades are talking about economic agreements. I had dinner with the CEO of Alibaba in Europe, who is touring Europe and selling the Baba cloud into European companies who are working with AWS. Kevin, you want to see a reduction in the revenues of your small and medium-sized businesses? Let us continue to damage our reputation globally with a series of nonsensical tariffs, reductions, increases. Our brand, the U.S. brand now means toxic uncertainty. No one knows how to plan their business against this man who goes up and down. So he's either stupid and doesn't understand economics, see above every tariff in history or every tariff policy, or he has decided, I know, I'll take the markets up and down and let the people close to me and who support me trade in this and make billions. I think that is what is going on.
I mean, to me, it's very clear cut, right? Scott Galloway is absolutely right. It's common sense. And if you listen to Piers Morgan and you listen to Kevin O'Leary, they both know and like the guy for whatever reason. They're buds. Piers Morgan can't get enough of like, oh, I was hanging out with them the other day and he told the best joke and he's just such a great guy. So whatever Kool-Aid they've drunk, they can't see the bad stuff, as obvious as it is. And when you bring it up, they don't have an answer for it. They're just like, oh, well, but what about Starlink? He's playing four-dimensional chess, though. It's absurd. But again, maybe I'm nuts. Maybe I'm not seeing it. If you take the side of Piers Morgan and Kevin O'Leary here and, agreeing with Scott Galloway is the wrong way to go, please explain it to me in the comments.